ToRaH Garden, speaking the absolute truth. ToRaH Nation.
Shalom, shalom, Yashar'el, Yahudah, grafted in Gentiles into the body of HaMashiach. We thank Yahuwah in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach for the witness, for the Ruach HaKodesh, for the righteousness that comes through faith in HaMashiach, obedience to the ToRaH. Yahuwah, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, Yahuwah, I give you praise. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise, I give you praise. I thank you for Yahusha HaMashiach, my kinsman redeemer. For him I give you praise, I give you praise. I thank you for Yeshua, Yahusha, Yah, salvation, I give you praise. Yahuwah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, by the witness of this Basor of truth, and by the witness of the water, the blood, and the Ruach HaKodesh, that by your Ruach HaKodesh you would lead me and guide me into all truth. Yahuwah, that you would take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign. Yahuwah, that you would continue to do that which is righteous and true before your people in me. Yahuwah, I just desire to do that which pleases you. I yield myself as a vessel of righteousness to be used of you, Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Yahuwah, I am nothing without you, but with you I am a son of Eluah. With the Ruach HaKodesh in me, I am a son of Eluah, and I give you praise for counting me worthy to receive this witness. Yahuwah, I give you praise. I give you praise. Yahuwah, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuwah, the reins of my lips, the reins of my tongue take. Yahuwah, allow me not to cause anyone to be turned out of the way, to stumble, to come up lame. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, my prayer to thee. Standing in the truth and the Basor of truth, I declare your word in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Listening to none other than HezekiYAH. As you know, I love this Achi. I do, I love this Achi. You know, and if you listen to his music, you can see the transition, right? The transition in the ministry and the anointing that he has. You know how he has transitioned is the word. I mean, I've listened to some of his earlier stuff and it was good, you know, but he's taking it to another level in the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, you better get a clue. Man, listen, I love to talk to this brother and ask him what has occurred since he first started to now. And I bet he says it's the Ruach HaKodesh, the revelation, the truth that comes through. Because listen, this is Ruach. HezekiYAH. The song is entitled Pure. I don't own the rights to this music. And the thing is, the witness is obtainable. It's not out here that you can't get to it. All you need to do is have Emunah and Yahusha HaMashiach's baptism in blood and then receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh. Understand that all things come through Yahusha HaMashiach. There is no other name given unto man whereby they must be saved. He takes it away. I'm going to preach this Basor of truth. I'm going to declare this witness. And those who have an ear to hear is going to receive Yeshua. Those who receive it are going to return to the land. Yeah. Those who receive it, they are going to be a part of the kingdom, pillars in the kingdom. This witness has to be preached. in this dispensation of time, it has to be delivered. Listen. Christianity hasn't delivered this Yeshua of Yahushua HaMashiach, our kinsman redeemer, right? Yahushua HaMashiach. They've taken Jesus to the four corners of the earth. They've taken God and Lord to the four corners of the earth. They've taken the tentacles of Hasatan, right? The beast, the red dragon, they've taken her throughout the four corners of the earth, right? It's a perverse time. It's a perverse time. Listen, even in the Christian church, there's perversion, right? There's perversion. And you know, you hear us say, well, ain't no righteous church. What? The church is to be righteous. The assemblies, not the church, but the assemblies should be full of righteous folk. Folks that have power. Folk that have signs following. You don't see that in the Christian church. You don't see that in the Islamic church, and you definitely don't see that in Judaism. No, their wealth is their money. Their wealth, their God is their money. Their God is their influence, right? Oh yeah. Listen, understand this, right? The tentacles of the beast is throughout all the world, right? The world is darkened. Yahushua HaMashiach said he had to do the work while it is day, because when dark cometh, no man can work. Listen, he was talking about the fact that there was going to come a time when it comes dark, right? So he's got to get the message of the Besorah of truth out now while it is day. Enoch 93:10. After that, in the 6th week, all those who are in it shall be darkened. All. And in it shall a man arise and come forth, and during its completion he shall burn the house of dominion with fire. Wrong. Darkened. This is during the time of Mashiach. Darkened. After Hamashiach. Darkened. During its completion shall the house of dominion be burned. The house where Yahuwah has established his name. The city, the country, the territory where he has established his name, his dominion, his kingdom. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Establish your dominion. Will be darkened. They shall burn the house of dominion with fire, and all the race, all the Hebrews, all the race of the Hebrews, all the race of the elect Hebrews, right? All the race of the elect Hebrews, the root shall be dispersed. It ain't even, well, it's RUACH. Because they'll establish it as rocket science, but it's RUACH. It takes the Ruach HaKodesh and submitting to the Ruach HaKodesh in order to receive an understanding of what's recorded. This is the sevenfold doctrine of all creation. The volume of this book. The volume of it all. Sevenfold doctrine can only be discerned by the Ruach HaKodesh, which is the sevenfold spirit. The things that are to be revealed, right, which were hid, are revealed because of the Ruach HaKodesh. The things that are revealed unto us are for or by the Ruach HaKodesh. Our understanding, our clarity. Can't get it without the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, Yahuwah moved on men in the original covenant and had them do and say things in the Ruach HaKodesh. And they didn't even understand it. Because they didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh. They had what they needed to do what Yahuwah needed to do for them at that minute, that hour. But listen. The Ruach HaKodesh is going to lead you and guide you into all. You can't even keep the ToRaH without the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah has to put his Ruach HaKodesh in you in order for you to keep the ToRaH. There's no other name given unto men whereby they must be saved. YAHUSHA has called me to preach this Besorah of truth and declare to you that you must receive the Ruach HaKodesh. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get out and do it. I'm going to do it. Yeah, because this Besorah has to be preached. Yeah, he says, say it again. This Besorah, this witness of Yahushua HaMashiach has to be preached in this dispensation because it is not gone out. It hasn't reached those who Yahuwah has chosen. It's going to get to the point where you can't even put this on video on YouTube. No, they ain't going to let you. You ain't going to be able to preach and teach this witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, not Jesus and Lord. Because that's not Yahuwah. That is not Ruach. That is not the Ruach HaKodesh. No matter what they say to you, they do not move in the Ruach HaKodesh. They move in a Ruach that is familiar. Right? It is the Ruach of Hasatan, because the Ruach of Hasatan established the beast in this system, in this religion, this Christianity. I know some of y'all ain't going to hear that, but it don't matter. Listen, it's the truth. You know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. When you receive the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, you'll know the truth. Oh yeah, it'll make you free. And then you'll receive the entire witness, including the Ruach HaKodesh, and he's going to lead you and guide you into all truth, because that's what he is. He is the Ruach of truth. Yeah. Listen. We're in Acts, the 27th chapter, and Yahushua told me, and Yahuwah told me to preach to you the necessity of the Ruach HaKodesh and the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, right? The witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, declaring the water, the blood, and the Ruach HaKodesh by the Ruach HaKodesh, right? It's the witness. It's the message, right? It's what we preach. We can't assume that this message has been preached because it hasn't. We can't go off the assumption that the Besorah, the message of the Besorah has been preached, because it hasn't. Yeah, man. The witness of Yahushua HaMashiach with signs following, it hasn't. It hasn't been preached. They who have went forth in Christendom under the Ruach HaKodesh have not operated under the Ruach HaKodesh. They've operated on a set apart Ruach, but it's not Yahuwah's Ruach. Yeah, it's not Yahuwah's Ruach. Right? Now, there are those who have received the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, right? Right? And received the Ruach HaKodesh as they understood it and desired, just like me as a young man, to see the signs that the book declares would follow them to believe, and receive the witness, right? Yeah. Ruach HaKodesh. Listen. The Ruach HaKodesh is given to all men who receive and make requests for. Doesn't matter. It just does. and it'll lead you and guide you. You know, and you know what? When you have the Ruach HaKodesh, you can't really, you can't move in the church, in the Christian way of things. It just doesn't seem comfortable. It just don't make sense. And you know what? It never made sense to me. That's why I went from church to church to church to denomination to denomination to denomination, just trying to know denomination, just trying to understand, find a place that would understand that the word of Yahuwah was the word of Yahuwah, and there was no place for compromise. Someone who would tell people that they can't sin. Someone that could tell people that they can't commit adultery. They can't commit fornication. They can't commit fornication. They can't be homosexuals. They can't be lesbians in Yahuwah's program. You can do whatever you want in Christianity. Listen. What we have ain't that. Right? You can serve that if you want to. Don't get me wrong. Listen, if you want to serve Christianity, go ahead. Right? You ain't the only one that have stolen, right? This Besorah, this ToRaH, this Sefer, this Bible, and made it your own, right? Judaism has taken the five books of Moses and established the Talmud. Listen, you ain't the only one. Listen, Islam, right? Muslims, they have taken elements of the old covenant and made the Quran. Listen. It's all the profanity, right? But see, we who are Yahudim believe in the Besorah and the Torah of truth. We believe that YAHUSHA said you have to keep his commandments as he kept the Father's commandments. We believe that you have to have a standard ToRaH, right? You have to have laws, right? You have laws that govern you, right? And unlike Judaism, right? We don't pick and choose it. We don't pick and choose. We accept what Yahuwah has and we live by it. Now, we who have the Ruach HaKodesh do this because we have the capacity to do it, and we have the capacity to do it established in the witness. We are Messianics, Hebrews. Yeah. We are Mashiachs. Yeah, we Mashiachs. We recognize and identify with the Besorah and the ToRaH, right? The ToRaH of Yahuwah. And ToRaH is not just the 5 books of Moses. The ToRaH is the entire teaching of the original covenant as well as the new. But it's the Besorah. It is Yahusha's Besorah. It is Yahusha's good news. The Besorah of truth. That's why we preach this truth. That's why we declare this truth. This is a way of life for me. This way of, I believe that Yahuwah will do whatever it takes to bring to pass whatever it is I need. Right? I believe it. I believe you will. Listen, let me give you an example. Small, but significant. A key issue in the house. Right. My wife's key. Right. So yesterday, I moved the vehicle. Right, her vehicle, because she parks behind my car. And that's where that's the way I want it. Because we have a single driveway, and rather than park it on the grass, park behind me, because you start to kill the grass, and so you park behind me, which means that when I get ready to leave to do what I need to do, I got to move her car onto the grass, right, for a small period of time. And I pull out. Well, I'm pulled out I moved her car right into the grass, got out the grass. And, for whatever reason, I got out the car And I believe I must have picked up some packages from the mailman, because I remember grabbing something from him and going into the house. Now, I thought that I took the key and put it on the table, right? Right? Because the last time that's what I did, right? But, you know, I guess I didn't. You know, somehow it ended up at the end of the driveway, which would make sense because that's where I was. But I don't recall that. I don't. You know, we were looking for the key from yesterday evening up until a couple of hours ago, right? Right. You know, so you know me. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm always like, well, you know, it's something that I need. Yahuwah's gonna give it to me. I'm gonna find it. It's gonna turn up. It's gonna turn up. I know it is. You know, and wife is on a manhunt. She just all looking everywhere. You know, but that's that's how she is. You know, and after I've looked and I've satisfied to look, I don't know where it is. I just know Yahuwah's going to turn it up, right? Right? Because that's what Yahuwah does. I mean, I'm trusting him for everything, right? Look, I know. She need her key. She only have one key to the car, right? So, doorbell, knock on the door. FedEx comes. FedEx has a package. But the first thing the FedEx lady does is she gives me a key. She says, here, this key was at the end of the driveway. Right? So, okay. Thank you. I told her, my wife was still on around looking for the key. I said, you know what? That was the Most High. Now, when I said that to her, she was like, well, you know, I just need you to sign this so I can go. I knew where that was. Right? And she couldn't have a clue. She said, oh, it fell off. You know, it's just, you know. Right? But see, I know that it was the Most High, right? And I told my wife, I said, listen, I ain't worried about it. It's going to turn up because Yahuwah is going to turn it up, right? Now, she had to be somewhere by 1 o'clock, right? And now it's like 11:30 going on 12 o'clock, you know, and I was going to take her, but, you know, I need to go in because I got to do what Yahuwah told me to do. She got this appointment, but I was willing to sacrifice it. But Yahuwah knows I don't want to sacrifice this anytime for anything, right? So, you know, 11:30. UPS lady comes. She said, oh, here's the box. I need you to sign for it. Oh, this is your key. Right? Right? Now listen. The package was not our package. It was the package of the lady next door to us. Right? So Yahuwah made her get out of the vehicle, walk up my driveway, pick up a key that was there that I did not know where it was, and obviously Penny didn't know, right? So it was like, okay, wow, look, I knew it was you. Oh, yeah. See, but that's what I expect because I'm his. I'm his, right? That's a testimony to the fact that Yahuwah will do whatever it needs to do to get you what you need when you need it. Oh, y'all don't hear me. You better hear me. You better hear me. That's what it means to be walking in the witness, right? And trusting in the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah to move on your behalf. The woman didn't even bring the package to the right place. It was supposed to go to my neighbor. But the key was found. Now, you know, I could have dropped the key. I really could have dropped the key, which doesn't make sense to me that I would drop the key, but I could have dropped the key and went in the house, you know, but anything's possible. All I know is when I need Yahuwah, no matter what hour it is, he will do whatever is necessary to bring what I need to pass. My wife is prepared to go ahead and order a new key, right? $140, $50. You said, no, trust me. I trust you. Listen, I trust you. Listen, no, you don't hear me. I trust Yahuwah. I believe in the witness of Yahuwah. I believe that whatever Yahuwah says he's capable of doing, that he is capable of doing. See, for me, it's a way of life. It's a way of life for me. It's a way of life. I understand this because I've received this witness. I have acknowledged, right, that the wisdom of Yahuwah and the righteousness that comes through receiving the witness is all I need. See, that's why I gotta preach this, because I have to have signs following. Like Yahuwah, signs got to follow. And if you don't have signs following, the witness. Dispensation needs to receive the witness. We need to, in the nation, recognize that it's enough of knowledge seeking. It's about the witness and ensuring that we all are quickened with the Ruach HaKodesh and established for this end time. Because there's some things that still has to happen. This pastor still has to be preached, because it ain't that. It ain't Islam. It ain't Muhammad. It's not Elijah Muhammad. It's not Jesus. It's not. Excuse me, the Lord. It's not that. It's not that. It's not Judaism, and they still looking for a Mashiach to come. And they done had 3 or 4 of them that wasn't it. I don't care. I know it's preaching and I know it's right. Let's go in. Yahuwah, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. I will speak your word in righteousness. Get Ahura. He told me to spare not. Lift up my voice like a trump in Zion and tell my people of their wrong. You're wrong. You need to receive the Ruach HaKodesh, and you need to be about the witness. Because all of that's going to end. All of that stuff that we've been able to freely get around and do, that's going to cease. Yeah. Get the witness. Better be trying to reach folk. Better be trying to reach folk instead of entertaining folk. Carrying people under the same Christianity almost umbrella. This ain't that. Acts 27. Now Paul is being sent to Rome, right? And we remember that yesterday in the 26th chapter of Acts, Paul was before Agrippa, right? Felix was listening to Paul. Paul was, Festus was listening to Shaul, Paul, and Agrippa, right? And Agrippa was listening to Paul, and Festus said to Paul he had lost his mind. Some of y'all think I'd lost my mind. But this is what it looks like to you, right? Because you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh. Because you don't have the witness of Yahushua and Yahuwah. It's foolishness. Listen, the preaching of the Besorah is foolishness to them that aren't quickened by the witness, that are not chosen. It's foolishness. Yeah. Festus said, look, Paul, what did Professor say? I want you. He says, right? He says, and as he thus spake, Acts 26 and 24, we're going to get to 27. As he thus spake for himself, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you are beside yourself. Much learning has made you mad. You done bumped your head. Like, you done got all of this learning and this information, and you done bumped your head. Right? You done lost your mind. Yeah. Christianity ain't this. Man, listen, you done changed your name to Yaakov, Yahudah, Gaal. We all know you was Weldon Walker, right? Right? And then you telling us, you was in the Christian church with us. Now you telling us that the Christian church is not what Yahuwah and Yahusha has said? What? You mad? Much research, much learning, much pursuit has made you mad. I've been quickened, made alive. I received the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. He just put me more clearly in the way. See, because I was in the way already, right? Right. But the way was clouded because there was so much of this Christian doctrinal stuff that was not RUACH, that was affecting me being in the way. You mad? You done lost your mind. What you mean the Honorable Elijah Muhammad ain't the way? What do you mean our beloved Farrakhan hasn't taught us the way? Oh, man, listen, and if the truth be told, Judaism don't want anything to do with anybody that ain't Ashkenaz. Everybody else is Goyim. That's why they sit at the seat of everything. Yeah. He's mad. Yeah. That's what Fester said. Fester said he's mad. He done bumped his head. He done lost his mind. And he's saying the same thing about me. Man, he always harping on this witness. And the Ruach HaKodesh. We had a Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah. With no signs following. Right? What you're saying is contrary to the ToRaH and the Besorah. Right. Oh yeah, man. He listen. I don't want to hear him. He gonna say the same thing he said before. It's okay. Yeah, Yahusha was the way. Everything he said pointed to him. Yahusha had signs follow. People was following him for the fishes and the loaves. Healing people. People walk away healed. And don't even give him glory. Listen, he said they did it to me. They gonna do it to you. Yeah. You preaching my witness? You preaching the kingdom of Yahuwah come? You preach and prepare for the kingdom of Yahuwah's at hand? Repent and receive the witness of Yahushua Mashiach and be filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, because that's what's going to keep you. That's the seal of Yahuwah on you, right? In you, right? That's what's going to keep you to the redemption of his purchased possession. Yeah, I'm preaching that, yeah. Yahushua Mashiach. That man is mad. He done lost his mind. He done lost his mind. And you know, it's funny because, you know, I could see it. I could see. I could see it. Listen, I see it in the eyes of my wife. Right. You know, and she ain't gonna listen to it. I don't think she listens. I see it in her eyes sometimes. You know, when I get to talking, I get to singing, I get to praying. She look at me like, he's mad. He bumped his head. He done lost his mind. But if this sword be hid, to be hid to those that are lost. Yeah, I said it. If this sword be hid, to be those who are lost. YAHUSHA said they can't receive it. The Ruach HaKodesh. Yahudah said they can't receive it. They can't receive the Ruach HaKodesh. And as he thus spake for himself, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, thou art beside thyself. You're beside yourself, man. You're beside yourself. You preaching Enoch. You beside yourself. You beside yourself, man. You know we don't talk about Enoch. Not like that, you know. That's not the canon books. Who canonized it? The Orthodox Christian Church. It ain't that. They wanted to add to and take away, right? They wanted to put what they wanted in there, right? And then, you know, they got the Dead Sea Scrolls. Got all these other books, manuscripts, right? They all are the the sevenfold. They all encompass, right, the sevenfold doctrine of creation. But you don't want to accept it, you know, because it's line upon line. It's precept upon precept. But see, the Ruach HaKodesh is going to reveal truth. You got the Ruach HaKodesh. All these books that are inspired without the Ruach HaKodesh, you got to take on a grain of salt. Because the Ruach HaKodesh is going to lead and get. See how far away we are? See how far away we are? Right? You know, we get a little word, we get a little knowledge, we get a little information, you know? And sometimes we just go off on the deep end. And Yahuwah has to try to rein us in and says, listen, you need the Ruach HaKodesh. Because you're getting in this stuff, but you need the Ruach HaKodesh. You need to be able to hear the Ruach HaKodesh. You got to know what the Ruach HaKodesh is saying. You know, you got people confessing the Ruach HaKodesh and talking like they don't even know who the Ruach HaKodesh is. Let's say you got people confessing that they have the Ruach HaKodesh, but they talking and witnessing as if they don't have the Ruach HaKodesh. You know, I mean, Paul, you mad. Man, listen, Yahudah got auto. Listen to that, brother. He mad. Yahuwah, I give you praise for your Ruach HaKodesh. I'm going to keep declaring it in the name of Yahushua Mashiach. I'm going to continue to declare your witness. I'm going to continue to declare that they need to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. And to those who have an ear to hear, they will hear. Right? So Paul's mad, according to Festus. Right? And Paul says, but he said, I am not mad, most notable Festus. Paul had to correct him, but he had to use wisdom in doing so. So he had to appeal to his nobility so that Festus won't think that he's insulting him, right? But he said, I am not mad, most notable Festus, but speak forth the words of truth and soberness. I'm just speaking the truth. I'm not drunk. I'm sober. I have a sound mind. I function from a sound mind. And he says, listen, but the king, Herod, Agrippa, he knows. For the king knows of these things, before whom also I speak freely. He knows about the traditions and the customs of the Pharisees and the Hebrews and the Torah and our zeal, our commitment to obeying the law. He knows. He says, for I am persuaded that none of these things, I'm convinced that none of these things are hidden from him. Listen, that was wisdom. Because anybody in their right mind knows that the wisdom of Yahuwah is hidden from Agrippa. Right? The Basora is hid from him. Right? He said, you almost persuaded me. Oh, y'all don't hear me. Listen. He says, I am persuaded that none of these things are hidden from him. For this thing was not done in a corner. Right? So he says, the king knows. He knows what the Pharisees do. He knows what the persecution was. He knows how I went about zealously declaring and snatching and doing what I was doing in the name of being a Pharisee. You know, he knows, right? He said he knows. They know what I did. He knows. King Agrippa, believeth thou the prophets? Listen, do you believe the prophets? Do you believe Enoch? Do you believe Jubilees? Who wrote it? Do you believe Yashar'el? Who was it ascribed to? Do you believe the 5 books of Moshe? Who wrote it? Do you believe? Do you believe that Yahuwah said that the woman would bruise his head? And that Hasatan's heel would be bruised by YAHUSHA Mashiach? Do you believe it? Do you believe Dawid, when Dawid said, take not thy Ruach HaKodesh away from me? Do you believe in the Ruach HaKodesh that Dawid spoke of in the original covenant? But yet you don't receive the witness of YAHUSHA HaMashiach, who was the Basora made flesh, greater than Moshe, greater than Dawid, greater than Shlomo, greater than everyone that came before him and after him. You don't want to receive his witness? Dawid said, Yahuwah, take not thy Ruach HaKodesh away from me. Do you believe in the Ruach HaKodesh? And Dawid had the Ruach HaKodesh because Yahuwah put it on him. Yahuwah anointed him. Yes, he did. Yahuwah anointed him. Right? Samuel came to him. Anointed him, set him apart from his youth. Poured the oil. Yahuwah put his Ruach in Dawid. He didn't put his Ruach in the sons, his brothers. He took his Ruach from Saul. Nobody was running around there with the Ruach HaKodesh. Except Samuel, maybe, who delivered the word of Yahuwah. People want... And Yahusha has made it possible for you to receive his Ruach HaKodesh. What you gonna do? To receive his witness? What you gonna do? You gonna be like Festus. Oh, you mad. You'll be like Festus. Oh, you mad. He's mad. Right? He said, listen. For the king knoweth of these things. He says he knows them. right? King Agrippa, believest thou the prophets? I know that thou believest. You believe in the prophets, Agrippa? Paul had convinced Agrippa about what he said, how he presented it. He says, then Agrippa said unto him, Paul, listen, almost, thou hast persuaded me to be a messianic, a Mashiach, be of the Nazarene, to accept the way. Almost, Paul. Now listen, this dialogue, right, that Paul had was not 3 verses. It was not even the sum of those verses. I believe it was a dialogue. And I believe Paul was highly persuasive. But this was recorded so that you understood the nature of what Paul was trying to communicate. Right? But Paul elaborated. He elaborated. Right? He elaborated. He elaborated to the point where even Agrippa says, listen, almost, Paul, thou hast almost persuaded me. And then Paul said, listen, Paul said, I would to allure that not only thou, but also all that hear me this day were both almost and altogether such as I am, persuaded, convinced, confident, assured in the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, right? I'm convinced, right, that he that has begun a good work in me will endure it until the end. I'm convinced. He says, I want you to be just like me altogether, except locked up. Paul didn't have to be locked up. And that's what happens when you don't listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah's grace is sufficient. Oh yeah, Yahuwah's grace is sufficient. He's merciful. Hence the reason why you ain't dead. He's merciful. You bound, but because you made the choice. And listen, how do you choose not to listen to the Ruach HaKodesh and expect to have a successful outcome? Listen, he didn't listen to the Ruach HaKodesh, and Agabus came and told him exactly what was going to happen. Paul was determined to do what he wanted to do. He did not listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Doesn't matter how pure his motives were, he didn't do it. Listen, this wasn't Yahuwah's plan. Yeah, somebody can be like, what do you mean? Look, it was Yahuwah's plan for him to put... No. Yahuwah knew what Paul had determined to do because Paul has a free will. And even though he warned Paul, the man that already had the Ruach HaKodesh, who he had already spoken to personally, right? He had already spoken to Paul personally before he even gave Paul a revelation about not going to Jerusalem. Because you were going to speak to you first. But see, if he can't get through to you, he's going to send somebody that he thinks you'll hear. And they'll speak a word to you in the Ruach HaKodesh. And hopefully you have enough sense to recognize that word, receive that word, and turn. But see, sometimes we won't turn because, you know, we feel like we know. Right? We feel like we know. This and that. Feel like we know. Oh, yeah, we know. Yeah. I gotta go to Jerusalem. Gotta go to Jerusalem. Don't go to Jerusalem, Paul. Listen, when you go to Jerusalem, right, because you failed to listen to the Ruach HaKodesh, this is what's going to happen to you. And listen, Yahuwah's word always comes to pass, right? Yahuwah's word always comes to pass. And Yahuwah has established a word in Enoch from the foundations of the earth. Listen, he is, afterward, in the 7th week, a perverse generation shall arise, abundant shall be its need, and all its deeds perverse. During its completion, the righteous shall be selected from an everlasting plant of righteousness, and to them shall be given the sevenfold doctrine of creation. Right? At the completion of the 7th week. We're in the completion of the 7th week because listen, I've been selected as a righteous seed. I've been selected from the righteous plant. I'm in the vine. We're in the 7th week. Oh yeah. We're in the 7th week. Because it ain't rocket science. This is a perverse generation. Its deeds are wicked. Christianity's Catholicism, their deeds are wicked. Come on, yeah, it ain't rocket science. They taking your money and buying jets and houses. In the name of Yahuwah, they profaning his name. Wicked. It's perverse. Listen, the rich is getting richer and the poor is getting homeless. This is wicked. Come on, there's nothing that's not unlawful anymore. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can explore your desires. It's wicked. It's wicked. Yeah, the ToRaH, the law, has been done away with. Whenever you do away with the ToRaH, it's perverse. Whenever you do away with the ToRaH, it's perverse. Yahuwah referred to the nation as a perverse generation because they did not keep his ToRaH. And here you have Catholic and the Christians telling you that you don't have to keep the ToRaH. That's perversion. They're perverse. Anytime you encourage or you tell somebody that they don't have to follow the ToRaH, Yahusha's commandments, because there's grace, it's perverse. Perverse generation. Perverse generation will almost be persuaded. He will always be persuaded. Almost be persuaded. Perverse leaders. Wicked. Listen, now, because of the manifestation of the, of the righteous selection from the plan of righteousness, right? After the 7th week, after there shall be another week, the 8th week of righteousness. Because see, I'm going to preach the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. And I'm going to declare that you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh, that you have to receive the witness. And in receiving the witness, as you receive the witness of Yahusha, right, we are going to establish a righteousness and a righteous people, of which Yahuwah said, and in Ezekiel 36 and 23, I will sanctify my great name. I will sanctify my great name. I will set my name apart again. How is he going to do this? I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned amongst the Christians, Muslims, and Judeans. right? And amongst the heathen which ye have profaned, because we did it first. We did it first, and because we did it, we was given the boot out of Jerusalem, right? The dominion was burnt, right. And shall know that I am Yahuwah, your Adonai Eluah, when I shall sanctify in you before them, right? He gonna sanctify in us before them. Why? Because we are a selected righteous, chosen righteous from the plant of righteousness. Right. And afterwards, the end of that 7th week, there shall be another week, the 8th of righteousness, to which shall be given a sword to execute judgment and justice on the oppressor. Yeah. That's why the angel had to seal them before the judgment. See, but the righteous have to, right, receive the witness, right? They got to wait. The angels have to wait till the witness is sealed in the righteous. They got to get the seal of righteousness, the Ruach HaKodesh, the witness. They got to get the seal. Right? And then once that happens, then we're going to be sanctified. Right? Oh, yeah. And I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. Right? He's going to be sanctified before our eyes. And then you know what's going to happen? It's going to happen. Right? Righteousness, which shall be given a sword to execute judgment and justice upon all the oppressors. And sinners shall be delivered up into the hands of the righteous, and during its completion shall acquire inhabitations by the righteousness, and the house of the great King Yahusha HaMashiach shall be established for celebration forever. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's got to happen. Yeah. This is Ruaco. This line, line upon line, precept upon precept. Yahusha's the plant. Yahusha's the vine. This is the sevenfold doctrine of creation being witnessed before your eye in the Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Ruach HaKodesh. So, sanctify them. Then he says, listen, we're going to go down a couple more verses in 36th chapter. He says, for I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of the countries and bring you into your own land. Once he sanctifies his name in you. He can do it before. Once you receive the witness of Yahushua Mashiach, once you've been sealed, then he's going to unleash on these heathens like nobody's business. He says, I will sprinkle you with water upon you and clean you. That's going to happen in the sanctification part. That's not going to happen once you are taken from among the heathen. No, he's going to do that when he sanctifies you. You must receive the witness of the water, the blood, and the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? He says, and I will sprinkle you clean water upon you, and you shall be cleansed. From your filthiness and from your idols will I cleanse you in the Ruach HaKodesh, setting you apart amongst the nations. Right? This witness is to be set apart from Christianity, from Islam, and from Judaism. This witness. Right? See, because in this witness, signs are going to follow. Listen, you ain't receiving the Ruach HaKodesh in this time and in this dispensation just to establish you so that you can wait on Yahuwah to gather you together and get a bunch of land and all of that just to, this witness has to be preached. This witness has to be, the witness of the Ruach HaKodesh has to be preached. Listen, I'm not saying that there's a problem. I'm not saying that there's no need for communities. I'm not suggesting that even as a nation, we need to come out from among them. But listen, this Masorah has to be preached. This witness has to be preached. The people need to know they need to receive the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. They have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. He says, a new heart also will I give you. This is the sanctification process. This don't occur after he's gathered you. He ain't taking you into the land if you ain't sanctified. He ain't taking you into a place that he's designated where his name is, and you ain't holy. You ain't a part of the elect. You ain't part of the chosen. A new heart also will I give you, and a new Ruach. I got to give you his Ruach HaKodesh. I got to give you the Ruach HaKodesh because you were dead in your trespasses and sin. If you dead in your sins, you are dead, which means that you don't have Ruach life and you ain't going in. He says, a new heart also will I give you, and a new Ruach. And I will put it within you. He's going to put his Ruach in you. Ruach HaKodesh. In you. Let me read this real quick. In you. And I will take away your stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. Right? He says, I will put my Ruach HaKodesh within you and cause you to walk in my statutes. You ain't going to be able to walk in his statutes without his Ruach HaKodesh. You can't do it. That's why you got to go through YAHUSHA, receive the witness of the witness and the water, the blood, and the Ruach HaKodesh. That's why Yahuwah has a standard. This is the order of business in order to keep his law, statutes, and commandments. Right? Let's go back to Acts. So, Paul almost convinced, right? Right? He says now, and Paul said, I would, everyone accept his bonds, right? We got to that point. Now, 30 verse, he says, and when he had thus spoken, the king arose and the governor and Bernice, and they sat with them. So they got together and sat down and had a discussion. And when they were gone aside, they talked. Everybody else was gone aside. They talked between themselves. This man doeth nothing worthy of death nor of bonds. Paul didn't have to be in Jerusalem. Paul did not have to go to Jerusalem. This is a testament to the heathens that Paul didn't have to go to Jerusalem. He didn't need to be there. He almost hoping that he persuaded everybody there. But at the end of the day, he's still in bonds. He's still going to Caesar. Now, you already told him, be of good cheer. You gotta endure this because you know what? You didn't listen to the Ruach HaKodesh, be of good cheer. You still gotta testify in Rome. This whole scenario developed over years. Right? He says he has done nothing worthy of death. And then said Agrippa unto Festus, this man might have been set free at liberty had he not appealed to Caesar. That's the king of Judah, or the king of Judea, not Judah, because he'll never be the king of Judah, but the king over Israel says. Right? So let's go on. right? The perils, right? So now Paul is on his way to Rome, right? And this is going to go pretty quickly because it really has to do with traveling and being shipwrecked and that kind of thing. So, and when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, right, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of the Augusta band. So, they took a ship and they went. And, no doubt some of Paul's disciples went with them, because even when you read this, right, it's not Paul writing it, but the person, when he speaks in a personal, as if I was their position, right? Okay. And entering to a ship of Adramyttium. Let me see what that is, because I'm not sure I would pronounce that.
Strong's G98, Adramyttium.
Adramyttium. Now, that ship means the name, I shall abide in death. Can't make this up. Right. He said we launched once we got into the ship that that means I shall abide in death. Right. We launched, meaning to sail by the coast of Asia, one Archarichus, right, of Macedonia, of Thessalonica, being with us, right? So he was one of the people that Paul had that accompanied him on his missionary journey, right? So this was one of the disciples that was with Paul, right? We launched, meaning to sail by the coast of Asia, right? A Macedonian of Thessalonica, that's his name, right? He was one of Paul's missionary, or one of Paul's disciples, companions, being with us, right? And the next day we touched at Sidon, and Julius courteously entreated Paul and gave him liberty to go unto his friends to refresh. So he let Paul, get off and go refresh, get himself together, and come back, right? Right? And when we had launched from thence, right, we sailed under Cyprus because the winds were contrary. So again, in that sea coast, it was brutal at certain times of the year, right? And the winds were dangerous to them ships, right? So they had to really pick and choose when and how they would sail, right? So he says, right, but the winds were contrary, right? And when we had sailed over the sea to Cilicia and to Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia, right? And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italy, and he put us thereon. So they left the ship of death and they got on the ship of Alexandria, right? Right? So they get on the ship of Alexandria, right? And they're sailing into Italy, right? And he put us therein. He said, and now, he says, and when we had sailed slowly many days, they had to sail slowly many days, and scarce were some, and scarce, I don't know what that word means. That word in the Hebrew, the Greek is
Strong's G 3433, Malis. Mollies.
The word is with difficulty and hardly, right? Or not easily, but scarcely, rarely. So it seems like it took them a while to get there, maybe because there wasn't not enough wind. It could have been anything. But he says, sailing into Italy, we were put in there. And when we sailed slowly, right, which means they didn't make up much ground sailing, right? Because you know, the stronger the wind, the faster you go, the more ground you make up, right? When we came over against Sindis, the winds not suffering us, we sailed under Crete over against Shura. So evidently there wasn't a problem with the wind anymore, so they were able to pick up and head over to Crete and over against Slemo. So this is almost like a travel itinerary, what they've done, right? And hardly passing it, came into a place which is called the Fair Havens, nigh whereunto, right, was a city of Lasia, right? So they ended up in this place. And he says, now when much time was spent, so I guess they was there and they ended up staying there for a while, maybe because the ship at Alexandria had to do some things and, you know, they weren't going to leave until they needed to get what they needed loaded, whatever. But at any rate, they was there for a little while. And when much time was spent and when sailing was now dangerous because of the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them. So evidently this was during a time or a season where the Yahudim quite possibly had now when much time was spent and when sailing was now dangerous, right? So it was a time when sailing was dangerous, which means there was a time during the seasons, right, when sailing was extremely dangerous because of the response of the winds according to the seasons, which made it extremely dangerous, right? It says, and because of the fast was, now I'm not sure what the fast represents. Let's see what that is. I know what fasting is. Right?
Strong's G 3521. Nastaya.
Fasting. Let's see what the etymology of that word means. Okay, I mean, that's what it means, abstain. So I'm not sure exactly what the connection is, and I'm not presumed to know what the connection is. But the idea is that somehow this is attached to a fasting. Was now already past, Paul admonished them. So it might have been because it was a fast period for the Apostle Paul, right? During this time, and Yahudim, right? Because that's what they ascribe this time to, a time period of which he was fasting, or a time period of fasting. And Paul admonished them, right? So this is what Paul's take on the next phase, right? And said unto them, sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, right? So Paul believed that if they struck out on this ship, they were going to experience damage and much loss, right? So not only in the landing and the ship, but also in our lives. Pastor, listen, I don't think it's a good idea to make this trip. Not at this season, not at this time, not with this weather, I mean, it ain't the time, right? Let's see what it says here. I perceive that the voyage, let's see what that is. Maybe it won't say something in reference to that. No, it just says voyage. And again, what I'm doing is I'm looking in Strong's numbers to get an idea of. So I perceive that the voyage will be with her. Okay, damage. Okay, understood. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, right? in lies, right? Now, nevertheless, the centurion believed the master, or the person who had the boat, the owner of the ship, more than those things which were spoken of by Paul, right? So, you believe the man who had the ship. The man who had the ship said, man, we'll be able to make this trip. Let's just strike out. And, again, you don't know what his motivations were. He's the captain of the ship of Alexandria, loaded it up, right? He ready to get out, right? And he don't make no money unless he get the boat where it needs to go. So he gonna sometimes we can do this. We gonna do this, right? Right? We can make this happen, right? Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken of by Paul, right? And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, was not commodious. It didn't have accommodations. Yeah. It's not convenient, not commodious, not fit. So where they were at wasn't even fit to stay, right? Yeah, we stay here. They don't have accommodations for everybody. We can't do that, right? Right? He says, because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Phoenicia. So they figure, look, okay, we're going to strike out. Well, we can't really stay here. This ain't convenient for us to stay here, not in winter. So let's at least make it to Phoenice, right? And there to winter, right? Which is as haven of Crete, which is a place in Crete, right? And lie towards the south and the north, because it lies towards the south and the north. So it's a place that we could dock in. If we need to ride out the winter, we can ride out the winter there, right? Right. And when the winds blew slowly, so they were like, okay, yeah, we good now. The wind is good. Let's go ahead and get out here now, because we got winds, because they didn't have TV. They didn't have satellite. They didn't have eyewitness news. They didn't have weather forecasts, right? They had to kind of make a determination, right? And when the winds blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, loosing thence, they sailed close to Crete. So that's what they did, right? Now we're going to go into, matter of fact, no, we're not. Well, yeah, no, we're going to stop here. The idea is we already understand that YAHUSHA had already told Paul, be of good cheer. You're going to have to go to Rome. Right? Paul knew he was going to have to testify in Rome. He had appealed to Caesar. Right? But we know, according to Agrippa and Festus and Bernice, right? In Acts 26 and 31, and when they were gone aside, they talked between themselves, saying, this man doeth nothing worthy of death or bonds. Paul didn't have to be in Jerusalem. He didn't have to. He didn't have to venture into Jerusalem. He didn't have to go into the lion's den. Especially when the RUACH had told him not to. Right? He didn't have to. Paul didn't have to. Right? And said Agrippa and Festus, this man might have been set free had he not appealed to Caesar. Right? So it's obvious that he should not have been in Jerusalem, right? 2 years plus in jail in Caesarea. 2 years plus. Heard by Felix, heard by Festus, heard by Agrippa, and none of them found him guilty. Felix cut him slack. Felix let him go in and out, right? It wasn't until Festus came that Felix like, okay, now, yeah, you got to put you back in change because we got to change it in the guard. Like, you know, and you said some things to me that kind of, ooh. You know, and I was expecting you kind of hit me off with some money, but you didn't. But, you know, at least I got some word in my departure of the province, which I'm probably glad to be away from. Right? And so now you have Paul on a ship headed to Rome, getting ready to go and be shipwrecked. Right? Because the next portion, well, let's just ride. We're going to go on. We're going to read a bit, right? And not long after, there arose against it a tempest wind called Yashar'el. Okay.
Strong's G.
Yashar'el?
48.
Yashar'el, right? A northeast wind, a variant reading, right? A violent agitation. Yashar'el, right? Southeast winds, rising mighty waves, a wind causing bold waves, broad wave. Oh, Yashar'el. See, Paul didn't have to experience Yashar'el. Let me see. Let me check this out. I probably shouldn't do it now, but I just want to I want to see what they say about Yashar'el. Yashar'el is a cyclonic tempest northeast wind which blows in the Mediterranean mostly in autumn and winter. It is the modern Yashar'el, and I can't pronounce the name. From the ancient Greek word Yashar'el, from eros, and either an ancient Greek word, right, or a Latin word. Yashar'el is not to be confused with the term nor'easter, which is a separate storm system that forms from the northeast, right? Okay, so that's what that is. Now, let's get back. So, we have this wind, right? It's arising, right? And when the ship was caught and could not bear up into the wind, we let her drive. So the wind the ship got caught up in this, and they couldn't deal with it, so they had to let it do its thing. You know, because you can't fight against the wind that ain't driving you. It's driving you in a certain way. They had to give way to it. They had to go with it, right? Right? And running under a certain island, which is called Claudia, we had much work to come by the boat. So, you know, there was things that started to happen to the boat, right? And when we had taken up, they used help ungirding the ship and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksand, struck sail, so were driven. It's a mess. Listen, it's a mess. Listen, I ain't a fan of boats. Because when they go down, it's just too much water, man. Not to mention. Listen. So they were concerned about the boat getting trapped in the sand, right? So evidently, where they sailed, right, because they came to a place, right, where much work to come by the boat, right, which when they had taken up to leave again, they used helps upgirding the ship and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksand, strike sail, and so were driven. The quicksand, I mean, like, let's see what that says. Syria, the name of two places, no, Cyrus, the name of two places in the African or Libyan Sea between, Carthage and Cilicia, full of shallow sandbanks, and therefore destructive to ships. The western, between the island of Cyrenia and Menix, right, so-called Sirius minors of Easterns, right? So listen, for upon the ship Paul was sailing might easily be cast after leaving Crete. So they didn't want to get trapped because of the water and the sand. They had to get out of Crete, right? They had to get out. They had to get out of there, right? Man, that's crazy. And we being exceedingly tossed with the tempest the next day, with lightened the ship. Look, Paul didn't have to be here. This is the consequences of Paul not having obeyed the Ruach HaKodesh. Can you see this? This is here for us as a constant reminder in the Ruach HaKodesh, because if you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, you're going to read over this and you ain't going to. In the Ruach HaKodesh, you need to understand that there are consequences to not obeying Yahuwah's Ruach. Consequences. Paul didn't have to be here. Paul could have been preaching the Basor wherever Yahuwah had delegated after he had received the witness of not going to Jerusalem. But he was straightened to do what he wanted to do. Which when he had taken up quicksand, right? Sip, right? And we being exceedingly tossed with the tempest the next day, they lightened the ship. So now they got to throw over cargo. Paul told them, look, now they got to throw over cargo. Paul told them. And I don't even think Paul got a word from the Ruach HaKodesh. Paul was just like, look, man, this ain't a good time to travel. Not this time. It ain't a good time. Right? So now they got to throw stuff over. Right? Because of the tempest. Right? Because of the tempest, they got to throw stuff over. You got to lighten the load. Right? Right? So, and the third day, we cast out with our own hands and tackling of the ship. So we started throwing everything out of the ship. Third day. We were just throwing stuff out. You know, 'cause you can imagine being on this water, man, just constantly, you know, and you got to keep bailing stuff, get it off, because it's affecting the way the ship is sailing. He says, and when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared. Now, they was on that water for many days. and no small tempest laid on us, it didn't get no better. All hope that we should be saved was taken away. We've been at that for days. We're going to die. They probably ain't ate. But after a long... Oh, yeah. But after a long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, Sirs, ye should hearken unto me. You should have listened to me and not loose from Crete. Should have listened to me. Should have never left Crete. And to have gained this harm and loss. Paul said, I told you so. He says, now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of man's life among you, but of the ship. So we gonna crash. We gonna wreck, but none of us is gonna die. Paul didn't have to be there. Listen, are you hearing me? You have to listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. You don't have to be in the place that Yahuwah does not want you to be. You have to listen and listen. If that means you got to turn your plate over, you got to get in your closet, you got to get away from everything and everybody to know what the Ruach HaKodesh is saying, you better do it. Because if you don't, man, it can end up like this. Now, is Yahuwah still with him? Yeah, Yahuwah's with him. But Yahuwah would have been with him if he had received the Ruach HaKodesh, and he would have had to be shipwrecked. And that never had to be a part of Paul's witness, because I think Paul witnessed it in like Corinthians. I think it was 2 Corinthians. Let's see, 2 Corinthians. Paul said something about that in 2 Corinthians. He says, yeah, I think, okay, so Paul says in 2 Corinthians 11 and 22, he says, are they Hebrews? Now he's talking about the apostles. I think Paul was defending himself in reference to his brethren, right? He says, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. He says, are they of the seed of Abraham? So am I. He says, are they ministers of HaMashiach? I speak as a fool. I am more. He says, in labor and more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prison more frequent. Because he's in prison because I was in prison because he was in prison a few times. For the witness of Mashiach, he was in prison for the longest stay because that was him, right? Right. He says, I labor more abundantly. Paul was a go-getter. He did. He said, in stripes above measure, yeah, he got beat, right? In prison more frequently. In death often, yeah. He got beat up. He got beat up, drug out of the Jewish temple. He got stoned, right? Drug out for dead, right? Now he on the ship. Right? Or the Jews 5 times received I stripes save once. So he got beat by the Jews 5 times, right? Now, I don't remember that throughout Acts. You know, maybe we'll get to some of it towards the end of Acts. But the idea is that Paul had experienced persecutions, right? He says, thrice was I beaten with a rod. 3 times I was beaten with the rod. Once was I stoned. We know about the stoning, right? Thrice I suffered shipwreck. He was shipwrecked 3 times. This is one time, right? Right? So Paul, he speaks from experience, right? he says in Acts, right? He says, now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no life of any man lost among you, but of the ship. Ship is they gonna make it. For there stood by me this night an angel of Yahuwah, who I am and whom I've served, and whom I am who I've served, saying, fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar. You got to go to Rome. You got to go to Rome. And lo, Yahuwah hath given thee all them that sail with thee. You ain't going to let none of them die. You will still, because he has a mission that he has accomplished. Because the witness is about Yahusha, it ain't about Saul. See, listening to the Ruach HaKodesh is about Yahusha and Yahuwah in you. It's not about Shaul. Going to Jerusalem was about Shaul, right? Right? And because Shaul wanted to go about it Shaul's way, well, Shaul was going through a bunch of other stuff that he didn't necessarily have to go through it all. We're going to stop there. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen. The witness, you must obey it. You must obey the witness. You must obey the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. You must obey. You must receive the witness. You have to. The message is, if you receive the witness, because it looks like this. The witness manifests itself like this. Yahuwah delivers and moves and responds and blesses like this. He delivers like this in the Ruach HaKodesh. Now, listen. Shaul, he still has the Ruach HaKodesh. Oh, yeah. And Yahuwah continues to witness and minister to him. But he says the same thing. You know what? He says the same thing. Right? He said, look, you got to go to Jerusalem. It's 3 years later. Probably 3.5 years, maybe 3.5 years later now. Right? Paul on the ship headed to Rome. Like, oh man, I'm going to die. The angel said, listen, you still got to go to Caesar. You still got to go before Caesar. You know, Yahuwah's going to save you and spare all the crew. Everything else can be lost. It's going to be spared. Right? Yahuwah's still going to do what he do. But you know what? It's a whole lot better when you listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, you may suffer. But you know, at least you're doing it because it was for Yahusha's sake. You know, that jail and prison stuff, being drug out of the temple by the Jews and beat up. No, that wasn't for Yahusha's sake. That was because you didn't listen to the Ruach HaKodesh. Whole Agabus came and told you you're going to be bound hand and foot. And your disciples told you, listen, Paul, your Ruach HaKodesh says don't go to Jerusalem. Yahuwah, I pray that the word that you have given me, they would receive in Emunah. I pray that the word will quicken, make alive in them. By your Ruach HaKodesh, I pray that your Ruach would make them alive. If they haven't received the Ruach HaKodesh, Father, grant them the Ruach HaKodesh. I mix my faith with their faith, Yahuwah. I say the word of Yahuwah is true. I say the Ruach HaKodesh and the witness of Yahuwah, witness of Yahushua Mashiach, receive in the name of Yahushua Mashiach. Yahuwah, I pray that you would heal, that you would deliver, that you would set captives free in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. And I pray that you allow the words of my mouth, the manifestations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuwah, my strength and my redeemer. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's all we have. Right? Again, the lesson to be learned is the Ruach HaKodesh looks like this. Right? The witness of Yahushua looks like this. And you must obey. The Ruach HaKodesh, you must obey the witness. You must keep that which the witness has been committed in you. You must obey it. Listen, Yahuwah to give you the Ruach HaKodesh for you to use when you want. For you to call on when you want. The Ruach HaKodesh is to be in you. Available for his use and purpose and must be obeyed. Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Women of Yahudah, beautifully and wonderfully made. That's all I have. I trust in the Ruach HaKodesh today. Father, in the name of YAHUSHA Mashiach, I ask you to continue throughout this day. By your Ruach HaKodesh, lead me and guide me. Guide what I say. Guide what I think. Guide what I hear. Yahuwah, by your Ruach HaKodesh, keep me in the way. In the name of YAHUSHA Mashiach. Listen, man of Yah, with that I say, one of Yah, shalom, 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 and be blessed.
ToRaH Guardian, speaking the absolute truth. ToRaH Nation.